Ladies and gentlemen, let me share a hard truth with you. Laziness is silently robbing you of your dreams. Every moment you waste, someone else is taking action, advancing, and building the life you claim to desire. So, I have one simple question. How much longer will you let laziness take from you? How many opportunities will you allow to slip away before you finally say, enough is enough? If you're tired of making excuses, if you're done letting your potential go to waste, then listen closely because today, we put an end to laziness. Most people assume laziness conserves energy, effort, and time, but the reality? It's costing you far more than you realize. Over the past 40 years, I've studied both success and failure, watching some people rise from nothing to everything, while others lose everything and fall into nothingness. And here's what I've learned. Laziness is more than a habit, it's a disease. And like any disease, if left unchecked, it will destroy you. Let me introduce you to something I call the laziness tax, a hidden cost most people overlook. Every time you choose inaction over effort, you're not just missing an opportunity, you're paying a price for your future. I once met a young man in Houston named Bree. He was full of talent and potential, yet he told me, I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to do it. So I asked him a simple question, how much is that costing you? That's the first step in overcoming laziness. Understanding its true cost. It's not just about money. It's about lost dreams, wasted potential, and opportunities that may never come again. Now let me introduce you to what I call the 4 destroyers of laziness. These aren't just strategies, they are life-changing principles that have transformed thousands of lives. If you're serious about eliminating laziness, these are the tools you need. Destroyer 1. Painful awareness. You must become painfully aware of what laziness is costing you, not just today, but in the months and years ahead. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to be lazy when you're not thinking about the consequences? Interesting, isn't it? We often disconnect our current choices from their long-term impact. Destroyer 2, immediate action. Here's something powerful. Laziness disappears the moment you take action, not tomorrow, not later, not when you feel ready, but right now. Most people wait for motivation, telling themselves, I'll start when I feel inspired. But let me tell you something profound. Readiness is a myth. Action generates motivation, not the other way around. I once shared this principle at a seminar in Dallas. Afterward, a man approached me and admitted, I've been waiting 20 years to feel ready. So I asked him, and how has that worked out for you? He lowered his head and sighed. Not well, he admitted. That's the trap most people fall into, waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives. If you want to break free from laziness, stop waiting. Take action now, even if it's small. The moment you move, momentum begins to build. Destroyer 3, ruthless discipline. Successful people don't rely on fleeting motivation. They build habits, systems, and routines that keep them on track, regardless of how they feel. Discipline is what separates those who achieve from those who only dream. You must train yourself to act even when you don't feel like it. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to scroll through your phone for hours, but difficult to spend even 30 minutes on something productive? That's because distractions are designed to pull you in, while discipline must be intentionally developed. If you master discipline, laziness loses its power. Destroyer 4. A compelling vision. Nothing kills laziness faster than a strong reason to act. When your vision is clear and deeply meaningful, taking action becomes a necessity rather than an option. The problem isn't that you're lazy, it's that your goals aren't compelling enough. Think about the last time you were truly excited about something. Did you need motivation to pursue it? No, you jumped in because the desire was strong. The same applies to your ambitions. If your dreams don't push you forward, it's time to redefine them. At the end of the day, overcoming laziness isn't about tricks or shortcuts. It's about awareness, action, discipline, and vision. When you commit to these principles, laziness loses its grip on you. So the question remains, will you continue letting it steal your future, or will you take control today? The choice is yours. Breaking free from laziness, the 5-second rule and beyond. Have you ever found yourself waiting for motivation to strike, only to realize that the feeling never arrives? Consider this. 20 years of someone's life spent waiting for inspiration when in reality, only action could have created it. This brings us to what I call the 5-second rule. The moment you feel an impulse to pursue a goal, you must act. Physically move within 5 seconds, not 5 minutes, not 5 hours, 5 seconds. Why? Because your brain is wired to protect you from anything it perceives as risky or uncomfortable, including change, action, and growth. It treats these as threats. But here's what's remarkable. Taking action unlocks resources within you that you didn't even realize you had. Think about it. When you're stuck in laziness, you fail to see your full potential. Yet, the instant you take action, opportunities start to surface. I once spoke with a successful entrepreneur in Chicago who told me, for years I believed I didn't have what it takes. Then one day I just started, and what I discovered? Everything I needed was already within me. He simply couldn't see it while he was stuck in inaction. The power of momentum management. The third enemy of laziness is a lack of momentum management. Most people assume that success comes from isolated actions, but that's not the case. True progress comes from consistent actions. This is what I call the momentum miracle. When you take action repeatedly, your efforts generate their own energy. Most people never experience this because they quit too soon. They take one step, maybe two or three, then pause. They pat themselves on the back, take a break, and that's when laziness sneaks back in. I once met a businessman in New York who built a company worth hundreds of millions. When I asked for his secret, he said, I made one rule early in my career. Never stop when you're tired. Stop when you're done. Controlling your environment. The fourth major destroyer of laziness is environmental control. Consider this. Laziness thrives in the right conditions. Much like a plant. Give it what it needs and it will grow. Take those conditions away and it withers. This is where the lazy zone comes in. Any environment that makes laziness easy and action difficult. Most people live their entire lives in this zone and then wonder why they can't break free. The most successful individuals I've encountered understand this principle. They design environments where laziness becomes uncomfortable and action becomes natural. I once shared this concept in Seattle, and afterward a woman approached me. She said, I've been trying to overcome laziness using willpower alone. I told her, that's like trying to sail against the wind by blowing into your own sails. Willpower alone isn't enough. You need what I call environmental power, a setup where laziness feels out of place and action becomes second nature. The cost of laziness now. Let's talk about what I call the 7 costs of laziness. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are real, measurable consequences you face every time you choose an action over progress. And this is where we dive deeper into those 7 costs, the 7 costs of laziness. Laziness isn't just about feeling unmotivated. It carries real consequences. Let me walk you through what I call the 7 costs of laziness, the tangible price you pay every time you choose inaction over effort. 1. Lost opportunities. Every time you delay taking action, you miss out on chances that could change your life. Whether it's a career move, a business idea, or personal growth, opportunities don't wait. They pass by and land in the hands of those willing to seize them. 2. Declining confidence. Each instance of procrastination reinforces self-doubt. When you repeatedly avoid action, your mind starts believing you're incapable. Over time, this erodes your self-esteem and makes future efforts feel even harder. 3. Wasted time. Time is the one resource you can never recover. Every hour spent hesitating is an hour lost forever. While others move forward, those trapped in laziness find themselves stuck in the same place, wondering where all the time went. 4. Increased stress. Avoidance doesn't make responsibilities disappear, it amplifies stress. The longer you put something off, the more pressure builds. What could have been handled with ease turns into an overwhelming burden, making action feel even more difficult. 5. Weakened discipline. Habits shape success and laziness disrupts discipline. The more you indulge in an action, the harder it becomes to break free. Instead of building resilience, you reinforce a pattern of avoidance, making even small tasks feel like insurmountable obstacles. 6. Damaged relationships. Laziness doesn't just affect personal success, it impacts how you connect with others. Unreliability and lack of follow-through strain friendships, family bonds, and professional relationships. People lose trust when actions don't align with words. 7. Unfulfilled potential. Perhaps the greatest cost of all is never realizing what you're truly capable of. Every person has unique talents, ideas, and ambitions, but laziness keeps them buried. The regret of knowing you could have done more is a heavy burden to carry. Breaking free from laziness. Understanding these costs isn't enough. You need a strategy to overcome them. Here's where transformation begins. Consistent, decisive action. It's not about waiting for motivation. It's about creating momentum. through small, deliberate steps. If you've been stuck in the same cycle, it's time to break free. Implement the 5-second rule. Manage your momentum, take control of your environment, and recognize the true cost of staying stagnant. The choice is yours. Will you take action today or let another opportunity slip away? The hidden costs of choosing comfort over growth. Time erosion. Many believe that time is neutral, treating all equally. But here's a powerful truth. Time always favors action over inaction. When you remain idle, time works against you. It doesn't pause, wait, or accommodate excuses. Every moment spent in laziness is a moment lost, one that actively moves you further from your goals. I recall a conversation with a man in Miami who told me, "I'm waiting for the right time to start my business." I asked him, "Why wait?" Meanwhile, his competition was already taking action, building businesses, adapting to the market, and seizing opportunities. Time isn't passive. It compounds, either as an investment in your growth or as interest on your hesitation. To opportunity blindness, opportunities don't simply appear. They reveal themselves to those who are in motion. When you remain stagnant, you limit your ability to recognize them. This is where the concept of the action lens comes in, a sense of clarity that only emerges when you're moving forward. Think of it like driving at night. Your headlights may only illuminate a short distance ahead, but that's enough to guide you to your destination. Yet many hesitate, wanting to see the entire journey before they begin. They crave guarantees and certainty. But here's the reality. Certainty is the enemy of opportunity. The only assurance you need is this: action will always surpass inaction. 3. Character. Erosion. Laziness doesn't just cost you time, it chips away at something even more valuable: your character. Character isn't built in grand moments. It's forged in everyday choices. Each time you choose effort over complacency, you strengthen your identity. Conversely, every time you hit snooze, postpone an important task, or take the easy way out, you shape yourself into someone who settles for less. I once shared this idea in Philadelphia when a young man asked, "How do I build strong character?" My response changed his outlook. Character is built one decision at a time. In laziness, it's character suicide. Forward out the destruction of momentum. Success isn't just about effort, it's about consistent effort. Laziness doesn't merely slow progress, it destroys momentum. And here's the crucial part. Momentum is far harder to build than it is to maintain. Consider what I call momentum math. If you're starting from 0 and aiming for 10, it takes immense effort. But if you're already at 7, reaching 10 becomes much easier. The real danger of laziness is that it doesn't just hold you back. It forces you to start over again and again. 5. Momentum. Disruption success isn't just about making progress, it's about sustaining it. Laziness doesn't merely slow you down, it resets your progress entirely. Momentum, once lost, requires significantly more effort to rebuild than to maintain. Imagine pushing a stalled car. It's difficult at first, but once it starts moving, it requires less force. However, if you let it stop completely, you're back to square one. The same applies to personal growth. I recall speaking with an entrepreneur who struggled to stay consistent. He would work intensely for weeks, then stop, believing he could pick up where he left off, but every pause set him further behind, forcing him to restart from scratch. The key isn't just to take action, it's to keep moving, no matter how small the steps. 6. The erosion of self-belief. Laziness doesn't just impact what you do, it changes how you see yourself. Each time you delay action, you reinforce the belief that you're incapable of progress. Confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. And the only way to build it is through consistent effort. Think about it. When you follow through on commitments, even small ones, you prove to yourself that you are reliable. But when you repeatedly choose inaction, you weaken your trust in your own abilities. I once met a college student in New York who told me, "I just don't feel motivated." I asked him, "Do you think motivation comes before action?" He nodded. That's the common mistake. People assume they need to feel motivated first, when in reality, motivation follows action. Start moving, and motivation will catch up. 7. The cost of regret. Perhaps the most painful consequence of inaction is looking back and realizing what could have been. Missed chances don't just disappear, they linger as what-ifs. Regret isn't born from failure, it comes from never trying. When you take action, you either succeed or you learn. But when you do nothing, you gain nothing. Time keeps moving, and so does the world around you. The question is, will you move with it? Years ago, I spoke with a retired professional who said, I always wanted to start my own company, but I kept waiting for the perfect time. And decades later, he realized that the right time never arrives. It must be created. Final thoughts. Laziness isn't just about procrastination. It's a slow decline that affects every area of life. It robs you of time, blinds you to opportunity, weakens character, destroys momentum, erodes self-belief, and leaves you with regret. The good news? The solution is simple. Take action, start where you are with what you have. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about movement. Because in the battle between action and inaction, time always sides with those who move forward. Every time you give in to laziness, you're resetting yourself to zero. I recall speaking with an Olympic athlete who shared a powerful insight. She said people assume the toughest part is the competition, but the real challenge is battling laziness during training. Every day she skips training, she doesn't just lose that day, she loses a portion of what she built the day before. Here's something most people overlook. Laziness compounds like interest. Each time you choose inactivity, you're not just missing today's opportunity, you're diminishing your ability to tackle tomorrow's challenges. Let's talk about what I call the laziness trap. After 4 decades of studying human behavior, I've observed that laziness isn't just a mindset. It's a strategy, it's a tactic your mind uses to keep you comfortable, to shield you from discomfort, and to keep you small. Isn't it fascinating how your mind works? It convinces you to wait for the perfect moment, whispers that you deserve a break, and before you know it, you're caught in a cycle of inaction. The 5th cost of laziness is what I call dream deflation. Dreams don't vanish suddenly, they fade gradually. They weaken each time you choose inaction over progress, each time you say tomorrow instead of now. I once met a man in Atlanta, 65 years old, who shared something heartbreaking. He said, "My biggest regret isn't the dreams I pursued and failed at, it's the ones I let die through laziness." That's why I developed what I call the Dream Protection Protocol. After witnessing thousands of dreams fade due to inaction, I created a simple principle: treat each day as a direct deposit into your dream account. Most people think dreams need to be protected from failure, but here's the truth. Dreams don't die from failure, they die from laziness, from hesitation, from the slow poison of someday. The 6th cost of laziness is what I call potential paralysis. Here's a profound reality. Potential without action isn't just wasted, it's unknown. You can't discover what you're truly capable of if you remain inactive. Let's explore what I call the potential paradox. The greater your potential, the more dangerous laziness becomes. The more talent and capability you have, the steeper the cost of inaction. I once shared this principle at a seminar in Vancouver, and a brilliant young woman approached me afterward. She said, "Everyone tells me I have incredible potential." I asked her, "What's the market value of unused potential?" Because potential without action is like having $1 million locked in a bank account. You can't use it. The 7th cost of laziness is what I call legacy limitation. Most people never realize the 7th cost of laziness is what I call legacy limitation. This is something many people overlook. Your legacy isn't built in a single moment. It's shaped by the small choices you make every day. Each time you delay action, you limit the impact you could have on the world. Think about it. History doesn't remember those who had potential but never acted. It remembers those who pushed through resistance and took consistent steps toward their goals. I once met a man who had brilliant ideas but never pursued them. He told me, "I always thought I had time, but now I realize time was never waiting for me." This is why it's crucial to adopt what I call legacy activation. This principle is simple. Act today as if your future self is watching, because in reality it is. The decisions you make now will define the story people tell about you long after you're gone. Laziness isn't just about lost time, it's about lost influence, lost impact, and lost meaning. When you embrace action, you don't just improve your life, you create a ripple effect that inspires others to do the same. So here's my challenge to you. Break free from the laziness trap. Recognize that every moment of inaction isn't just delaying progress, it's taking something away from your future. Choose discipline over comfort. Choose movement over hesitation. Because the cost of laziness isn't just measured in days, it's measured in dreams, potential, and the legacy you leave behind. The power of self-discipline. Have you ever considered that laziness doesn't just impact you, it influences your legacy, shaping the lives of those who might have been inspired by your actions, benefited from your work, or transformed by your contributions? Let me introduce you to what I call the legacy equation. Your daily choices, X time, X impact on others, equals your legacy. Fascinating, isn't it? Every time you give in to laziness, you're not just limiting your own potential, you're diminishing the legacy you leave behind. I recall speaking with a highly successful business owner in Boston who once believed that his laziness was his own concern. Then, he realized his children were observing him, his employees were taking note, his community was watching. His lack of action wasn't just a personal setback. It was silently teaching others that settling for less was acceptable. Now let's talk about something I call the action revolution. The moment you decide enough is enough, when you recognize that laziness has taken too much from you, stolen too many dreams, and destroyed too many opportunities. This revolution begins with what I call the non-negotiable moment. A decision so firm, so absolute, that laziness no longer holds power over you. Amazing, right? Just one moment can change everything. The 3 stages of the action revolution. 1. Painful clarity. This is when you finally recognize laziness for what it truly is. Not a harmless break, but an enemy stealing your life. I once met a man in San Francisco who had his non-negotiable moment when he calculated how much his laziness had cost him over a decade. The number? Over $1 million. He thought he was conserving energy, but in reality, he was losing a fortune. 2. Strategic intolerance. Most people are too lenient with their own laziness. They justify it, excuse it, even welcome it. But here's a powerful truth. You can't defeat an enemy you're comfortable with. This brings us to what I call the zero tolerance zone, a mental space where laziness has no influence, no say, and no control. In this zone, you don't negotiate with laziness, you eliminate it. I was speaking at a conference in Chicago when someone asked, "Isn't some laziness okay? Don't we need to rest?" My response was simple. Don't confuse strategic rest with laziness. Rest is a planned part of productivity. Laziness, on the other hand, is the enemy of progress. 3. Momentum mastery. This is when taking action becomes second nature, when movement feels more natural than stagnation, and productivity becomes part of who you are. Let me introduce you to what I call the 5 laws of momentum mastery, principles that define the relationship between action and achievement. The first law, the law of initiation. Here's something interesting. The most challenging part of any task isn't completing it. It's starting. Most people wait for motivation to begin, but here's the truth. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. I once shared this with a group of salespeople in Detroit. One of them admitted, "I keep waiting to feel confident before I make my calls." I told him, confidence isn't a prerequisite for action, it's the result of it. The second law, the law of continuation, starting is essential, but sustaining momentum is where the real challenge lies. Many people can begin a task, but the true test comes when the excitement wears off, doubt creeps in, and laziness whispers its tempting excuses. Now let me share with you what I call the continuation formula. The formula is simple. Small, consistent actions over time lead to unstoppable momentum. When you feel the urge to quit, remind yourself that progress isn't built on massive leaps, but on steady persistence. Each step forward, no matter how small, strengthens your ability to keep going. I remember meeting an entrepreneur in New York who told me, "I used to stop whenever I lost motivation. Then I realized that if I simply kept moving, motivation would catch up with me." That's the power of continuation. It transforms effort into habit and habit into results. The third law, the law of resistance. Every meaningful pursuit faces resistance. It shows up as procrastination, doubt, and distraction. But resistance isn't a signal to stop, it's a sign that you're on the right path. Think of a plane taking off. The most energy is required at the beginning, when it pushes against gravity. Once it reaches altitude, momentum does the rest. The same applies to discipline. The hardest part is pushing through resistance, but once you do, momentum takes over. The fourth law, the law of acceleration, success compounds. The more you act, the easier action becomes. This is why those who develop self-discipline appear unstoppable. They're not superhuman, they've just mastered acceleration. A musician doesn't wait for inspiration to practice. An athlete doesn't rely on motivation to train. They show up daily knowing that each session strengthens their skill and fuels their momentum. The same principle applies to any pursuit. The more consistently you engage, the faster you progress. The fifth law, the law of identity. Your actions shape your self-picture. When you repeatedly choose discipline over delay, you stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles with motivation Instead, you begin to identify as a person of action. I once met a writer in Los Angeles who struggled with procrastination. One day, she decided to shift her mindset. Instead of saying, I have to write, she started saying, I am a writer. That small change transformed her approach. Writing was no longer a task, it became part of who she was. This is the final breakthrough in mastering momentum. When discipline becomes identity, effort becomes effortless. The action revolution in your life now that you understand the legacy equation, the non-negotiable moment, and the 5 laws of momentum mastery, the next step is simple. Apply them. Laziness has already taken enough. It has delayed dreams, cost opportunities, and stolen potential. The time to reclaim control is now. Remember this, your future self is watching. Every action you take today determines the person you become tomorrow. Will you choose to move forward, or will you let hesitation decide for you? The choice is yours. But if you commit, if you step into action with purpose, then one day you'll look back and realize that this was the moment everything changed. Your ability to keep going is directly tied to making persistence non-negotiable. Isn't that fascinating? It's not about waiting until you feel like continuing. It's about ensuring that stopping is never an option. The third law is the law of acceleration. Here's something powerful. The longer you stay in motion, the easier it becomes to keep moving. Think of a spacecraft escaping Earth's gravity. The hardest part is overcoming inertia. I once spoke with a businessman in Houston who told me something profound. For years, he believed success came from working harder. Now he understands that it's about working consistently, not in terms of hours, but in unwavering dedication. The fourth law is the law of compound action. Many grasp the concept of compound interest in finance, yet few apply it to their actions. Consider this. Every action you take not only produces results, but also strengthens every future effort. I once explained this in Toronto when a young entrepreneur asked, how long until I see results? My response? The real question isn't how long it will take, it's how long you can keep going without needing immediate results. The fifth and final law is the law of legacy action. This may be the most profound of all. Every action you take today doesn't just shape your present, it builds your legacy. The example you set will ripple through time. Now, let's talk about 3 ultimate truths about laziness and action. Truth number 1. Laziness isn't a friend pretending to be an enemy. It's an enemy disguised as a friend. Every time it offers comfort, it's really leading you towards stagnation. Every time it promises rest, it's planting the seeds of regret. Truth number 2. The discomfort of taking action is temporary, but the regret of laziness is permanent. Discipline may be a light burden, but the weight of missed opportunities is crushing. Truth number 3, perhaps the most important of all. Your life is defined by your actions, not your intentions, not your plans, not your hopes, not your dreams, only what you do. So here's my challenge to you today. Don't just absorb these words, act on them. Don't just think about taking action, take it. Don't just plan to overcome laziness, eliminate it. Because in the end, what matters is not what you could have done nor what you should have done. It's what you actually did. Your future is waiting. Your potential is waiting. Your legacy is waiting. But none of them will come to you. You have to go to them. And the only way to get there is through action. Eliminate laziness. You have work to do, not tomorrow, not later, not when you feel ready, right now. Because now is all you have and now is all you need to build a better life. Laziness has taken enough from you. Enough time, enough dreams, enough opportunities. No more waiting, no more excuses. Your future isn't a fantasy, it's the result of what you do at this moment. The world doesn't reward good intentions, it rewards action. So get up, move forward, do the work, because in the end, it won't be what you could have done that defines you, it will be what you did. Your greatness is waiting, but it won't come to you, you must go to it, and the only way to reach it is through action. So go. Dominate, and never let laziness rob you again. Now is the time to take control. No more hesitation, no more excuses. Start today. Chase that goal, launch that project, break free from stagnation. If this message resonated with you, don't just listen, take action. Like, share, and comment, I'm ready, if you're committed to destroying laziness and building your best life. Let's make it happen right now. The decision you make today will determine the path you walk tomorrow. Every second you hesitate, every excuse you entertain is time stolen from your potential. But here's the truth. Opportunity doesn't wait. Success doesn't pause. Life moves forward with or without you. What separates those who achieve from those who remain stuck isn't talent, luck, or intelligence. It's movement. The willingness to take action despite uncertainty. to push forward even when motivation fades. If you want change, don't wait for the perfect moment. There isn't one. The right time isn't some distant day in the future. It's this very instant. The only way to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be is by taking the first step. You might not feel ready. You might not have all the answers. That's okay. Action creates clarity. Movement builds momentum. What you do now will shape the results you see later. Look back at your life. How many dreams have been delayed? How many chances have been missed? The past can't be rewritten, but the future is still yours to shape. You can either continue to watch from the sidelines or you can step in and take control. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve. Right now, there's work to do and it won't be easy. Growth never is, but neither is regret. The difference? One leads to progress, the other to disappointment. So choose wisely, commit fully, take ownership of your future, and most importantly, start. Not later, not someday, but now. Because success isn't given, it's earned. Through discipline, persistence, and action. Your greatness is waiting. Will you rise to meet it?